is preparing. Going back on.
We ready, right?
And we are now live.
Okay. All right. Good evening, guys. Welcome to John Lewis Invictus Academy's Go Team meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I would like to remind everyone that this is the meeting of the Go Team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. For members of the Go Team, please identify yourself when you speak. I'm pleased to call this meeting of the John Lewis Invictus Academy's Go Team to order at 5:20 p.m. Our first order of business is to call roll. Miss Miller, can we go ahead and call roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Ramon Garner,
Present.
Ms. Rejoice Jones,
Present.
Roy Cosville,
Present.
Ms. Cabricia Ram,
Present.
Ms. Rosalind Triplett, Ms. Triplett. Please let the record, I'm the record, but please let the record reflect that Ms. Triplett is here. I think she's having some difficulties connecting. Ms. Nicole Pruitt, absent, and then Ms. Andrea Leslie, absent.
1, 2. Okay. This team will only be able to take official action if a quorum is present. Ms. Miller, is there a quorum present?
Yes, and please forgive me. Yes, there is a quorum present.
Okay, great. All right. Our first order of business tonight is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you and copies are here and available. Are there any changes to the agenda? I actually know from the agenda last time. Okay. The only change that I see that probably needs to be added is the agenda probably should have the budget training on there for an action item. I think we got that an email about the budget training before we can offer recommendations for the budget. So I'm just going to suggest that we just add an action item where we can just discuss the budget training, making sure that everyone has taken the training so that we can be informed to be able to offer recommendations in support of the budget.
Noted.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Okay, can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Roy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. Okay. We will review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes have been provided to you. Are there any corrections that need to be had? Okay. If there are no further corrections, I'm gonna have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Also, all opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Abstain. Thanks. Okay, our first action item was the approval of the agenda. Ms. Miller, is there any like specific thing that we need to do to approve the agenda? Approve the agenda, approve.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Approval of previous minutes. Okay. does anyone else have any specific things that they want to talk about the previous agenda or the previous minutes? Because I think that for those action items, they're kind of like both in the same. Okay, great. If it's okay, I'd love to go to our third. Okay, how about this? Before we move to the budget item about the action item about budget training, because we only have approval of agenda, approval of previous minutes. And then the last one that I just think is necessary before the discussion item is to just talk about budgets. But if we can approve the agenda and the previous minutes, can I have a motion to approve those items from last meeting?
Motion.
Thank you. May I please have a second?
Second.
Awesome. And all in favor, please say aye. So the secretary can record the vote. All in favor, please say aye, please.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed, please say nay. It's breaking up a little. Any abstentions, please say abstain.
Hey,
Okay,
Jones, I know that they're raising their hands too, so I think some people may be having issues with volume. So
okay,
they're voting, they are raising their hand. I just want the record to show, I think Ms. Miller is recording that. She can see them.
okay. Please stop me if it's, okay, so the last action item is the budget training, which is required in order for the GO team to be able to offer recommendations and then review the budget. Based on what I know so far, we still.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Jones, if I may, the budget training is required at the time of that final budget approval.
Not for the
So-
recommendations.
It is preferred that you all have completed the budget training, but no, it is not required for the recommendations this year. It's required.
Okay.
So we want everybody to take that budget training. And by the way, Mr. Cogdell, did I pronounce your name correctly? Welcome to the team. I did not realize that you were a new member of the team. So I just saw your email, so you'll be getting all this information. My name's Diane Jacoby, and I'm the school governance liaison. I help support the teams from the central office.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. But Ms. Jones, know that everybody needs to finish that budget training before you do that final budget approval.
Okay. Well, for this, I think for our purposes, we'll get a list, and Ms. Jacoby, if you can help with this, just a list of all the trainings that still need to be had by the GO team, and that we can take that and just like offer support and just, because everyone has a busy schedule. And so I'll take it and just like reach out to people individually and say like, hey, can we knock this out before, so we won't have any bottlenecked processes moving forward towards the final budget review. So that's all for that action item. If we are okay with it, I would love to move, if we can move to the discussion items on our agenda. And the first and only discussion item we have are the final recommendations for the budget, which I think Mr. Garner will take over.
All right, good afternoon. Well, good evening, everybody. Great day today, as someone said, for John Lewis Invictus, as Ms. Rejoice said, for John Lewis Invictus Academy. And now we move into this work. I'm going to share my screen. I want to share a couple things, actually. First, I want to share our finalized strategic plan, which we've already voted on, our strategic priorities, and voted as a team to approve this plan. But I want to reference this as we go. Is it going into present mode? Okay. Let's see. All right. Is it? Now, can you see it? Did it change?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Garner.
Good, thank you. So for our strategic priorities, we listed 8 of them. And our top priority, and I want you to keep this where everybody has access to this, but I want you to keep this at the forefront of your mind as we talk about some of the shifts and moves that we have to make related to our budget this year. So our first strategic priority is to improve students' mastery of core content knowledge in ELA, math, science, and social studies. So in the core content areas for us. The second one is to close the student achievement gap with general ed students and students with disabilities. And then our third priority was implementation of STEAM, STEAM-enriched curriculum to drive interdisciplinary and project-based learning, teaching and learning approaches. I won't read all of these, but these are strategic priorities, and those top 3, all of them, but the top 3 really align to what we want to do as a school. So with that being said, our top priority is really the quality of teaching in our core content areas, right? So let me pull the budget up and we can talk through, again, my final recommendations that I want to take to the to my staffing conference later this week. Where's the share button? Okay. And all right, everybody can see this? All right, so as you can see, our projected enrollment, again, was 775 students. That's a 118 student decrease than the year before, which is equates to about $400,000 that we won't have this year. As a result of that, and keeping our strategic priorities in mind, there are some shifts that we have to make. So I want to talk to you in literally, 3 buckets. The first bucket is $400,000. There's no way we can keep everybody that we currently have. There has to be some shifts, right? So the shifts that we're going to make would be, we would essentially have to abolish 3 non-instructional aid positions. 3 non-instructional aid positions, okay? Which will leave us with 3. So we had 6 non-instructional aides before. We'll have to cut down to 3. And we will pay those 3 out of the CARES funding in order to maintain. All right. So I want to be clear. Is everybody clear on that? 3 non-instructional aid positions we will have to abolish. Additionally, we will have to abolish 2 positions that we have, being reading specialist and math specialist. Reading specialist and math specialist will be the other 2 positions that we will have to abolish for next school year. And then the last position is 1 assistant principal position that we will abolish as well. Okay, so due to budget and finance purposes, those will be the positions that we'll cut. Before I move on to the next bucket that I want to talk to you about, are there any questions about the abolishments that we need to do? Okay. All right. Okay. Moving forward. As we all know, maybe we don't know, our students have major deficits or gaps in the areas of reading and math. Okay, in the areas of reading and math. And so one of the innovative moves that we want to be able to make that aligns with our strategic priorities around our core content areas, around STEAM, right, is this creation of a humanities course. So what humanities course will do for us will, one, allow us to hire more ELA teachers, more math teachers, and science teachers. And the reason being is because humanities, it will be a course where we will teach for 6th and 7th grade only, because they're not Georgia Milestone classes. For 6th and 7th grade, we will teach social studies through ELA. Now, what that would allow us to do is to take off those 2 grade levels that additional social studies period off. It will allow us to increase class time to 80 to 85 minutes, which will allow for more project-based learning, more learning through discovery, and we will still be able to teach the social studies standards through the ELA course. That also will allow us, because we will abolish 3 social studies classes on 6th grade and 3 social studies classes on 7th grade, that is 3 additional teachers. So that will allow us to hire another ELA or humanities teacher, another science, and another math. So we would essentially go, right now we have 4 3-man teams on every grade level. We have a math, a science, a ELA, a social studies, and we have 3 of those teams. We will essentially go from 3 4-man teams to 4 3-man teams. We'll expand the class time, and we will be able to focus because there will be more time in those areas where we need to focus a little bit more. We won't do that in 8th grade, because 8th grade social studies class is a Georgia Milestones class and is focused on Georgia history. So 8th grade we won't do, but essentially our allotments will go from why's this thing not moving? Let me move this.
The network is freezing. You may have to refresh, Mr. Furman. Oh, got it.
Yeah, but I wanna, this is kind of small. What I want to show you are the teacher allotment changes. So if you guys can see this, in the past, it's been 9 math teachers, 9 science teachers, 9 social studies, 9 ELA. Well, you can see the allotments now are 11 because of those moves that we made. So the 3 social studies teachers would still be on 8th grade, Georgia Milestones course, but we would essentially be able to add 2 ELA teachers, 2 science teachers, and 2 math teachers to teach the humanities class and spend more time in those areas where we know our kids have the biggest deficits. Any questions about that?
Does this help to like decrease the class size if you're adding more teachers for sort of the core content areas that you want to focus? Does that like allow us to get more individualized instruction since we have more teachers?
Right, and it also allows us to get more quality, more teachers in the areas of ELA, math, and science. So it gives us an opportunity to bring in more talent. It also gives us an opportunity to spread us out a little bit more, make the class sizes a little smaller, and it gives us time to increase the class time. Right now, 50-minute classes, there's a beginning, middle, and an end. It's not a lot of time, but with this model, we'll be able to extend the class time. We'll be able to do, again, a lot more project-based learning, which is what STEAM is all about.
Yep.
So our students will be learning more hands-on, more through discovery, more through solving real-world problems as opposed to some of the things that we do right now. I really believe that this model, and we've seen it, we've done our research, we're watching another school up in Gwinnett County, Coleman Middle School, that runs this model. We really believe that this model will pay dividends for us. I really, really believe that when we talk about those 21st century skills around
Mhm.
collaboration and communication,
Yep.
this is what we want, to line our kids up to be able to take some of these jobs that Microsoft, which is right down the street,
Yep.
is here to do.
Nice.
That's the second bucket. Any good question though? Any other questions about the shifts that I'm recommending? All right. The third thing are the positions that we will add. So because we have had to abolish, quite a few positions, that leaves areas of the work that still needs to get done, but we don't have the additional people to do. So because of that, I'm recommending to hire an engagement specialist, which is not nearly as much as a assistant principal, but it will give us an opportunity to have a person that is focused on the engagement in our HMH platform, which is what one of our assistant principals is doing. Also testing, test coordinator. We have a lot of tests that we have to take throughout the year, and that has to be well coordinated. So I'm recommending an engagement specialist. And then the other position for one of those non-instructional aides will be an SEL teacher, that we could add to fill in some of the gaps for social emotional trauma that our kids have faced. Outside of that, all of the other positions would remain. Those would be the recommendations, is the abolishments I spoke about earlier. The innovation around creating this humanities course, which is going to give us more time to with our students, more hands-on activities. It's going to make the class sizes smaller. And then the third thing is the addition of the engagement specialist and the SEL teacher. And I'll go to present. Go ahead.
Just one question, because I think this is great. For the SEL teacher, would this be like sort of like a counselor post where people would just come and go to the center to see the SEL, or this is someone like they're actually rotating to every day or a few times out of the week? Or do we not know yet how we want to?
I'm sorry, Ms. Jones, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so for the SEL, which is amazing and great, would this person be sort of like a counselor post where students just come and when they need it, or it's like they rotate to this person every few times out of the week?
We see this person as having a caseload and doing a lot of character enrichment type curriculum, or just being able to speak to students about trauma, or when students need a breather from class, or have maybe gotten into something where we need to pull them out. This will be a person that as a resource for those students. Yeah, good question. Any other questions? Ms. Miller, are those questions that I need to answer at this moment? I can if I need to.
In the chat, in the chat.
Yeah, do I need to?
I can read it. It's okay. So Ms. Howell asked, but if there is a significant deficit in reading, will this ELA learning improve the student's ability to read?
Yes, ma'am. That's the whole purpose. When we say ELA, is English language arts and reading combined. Hence, we need more time to be able to do that. Right now in our district, we also have the intervention block, which we use every morning for 45 minutes. So that's a personalized curriculum that our students use each day right? That we give them a pre-assessment, and they and it prescribes a lesson for them. So they are either doing Read 180 and doing individualized lessons through that, or they're doing Systems 44, which is a more phonics-based program if the students tested and it stated that they needed that support. So we're doing that 2 to 3 times per week, 45 minutes per day. And again, next year that won't change, but we'll have more class time to focus in on writing and reading. And so that would be the plan. Any other questions in the chat? Good question. Hopefully that.
No.
I'll just say one thing. When I used to teach and we had those blocks in the morning, they helped. But to your point, Principal Garner, it wasn't enough time. We would often have to cut right in when we were really catching sort of like a high point of the learning. We would have to cut and just move on because of the pace of the schedule. So just extending the time where they can kind of dive in deep into understanding the world around them with the curriculum is just like, yeah. So I'm excited about this. I think that's a great plan to use different levers to get to the same goal. So, okay.
I'm excited about it too, Ms. Jones. I think that with what we have, financially, I think we will be able to get the best bang for our buck. I think our job will be to make sure that we continue to professionally develop our teachers, to create time to professionally develop our teachers, to see the things if the things that we're doing are working. But I think that I truly believe that these are the right moves to make. Do I at this, and Mr. Kobe, you can let us know, do we vote on what my final recommendations are to take to the staffing conference at this time? Is that voted on?
So my first question is do you have that budget development PowerPoint template we sent you with all of those slides? Because part of this discussion has to be what your leveling holdback is, what your Title I and family engagement holdback is, and what your CARES funding is. Because it's not in there. We sent it as an email.
You said that email is something else I was supposed to fill out?
Mm-hmm. We sent it to you at the beginning of this process. I can send it to you.
Okay.
But that's the presentation that you're going to have
My budget is consolidated, so it's not, I have a separate Title I or separate. Now CARES, we do have, and I can pull that up as well. But
you still have a Title I holdback.
Okay. Okay. That's something I'll have to.
Somewhere in those allocations, yeah, under additional earnings. Yeah, see,
Oh, okay.
You still have a Title I holdback.
Oh, okay. I got it. It's right here. Okay.
And so like you need to, let me send you that presentation. Hang on just 1 minute, please.
Yeah.
And the reason we need you to talk about those holdback funds is because please remember that our GO teams are considered under state law as public governing bodies, and part of state statute for the charter systems is that local school governance teams have a role in this budget process. So if you don't talk to your GO team now about what you're going to do if you get all of those leveling funds and the Title I holdback, then you'd have to bring them back to vote on anything. And we don't want to have that slow down any process.
So what you're saying is if my enrollment is higher than what's projected, what are we going to do with the extra funds that come out the FTE count? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but leveling, so finance holds back, I believe it's about 2% of
Right.
your budget.
That's right.
And you only get that back if you meet your enrollment projection, right?
That's right.
So that 2% would be, what are you going to do with that 2% of funds if you get it all back is the question.
Got it. And it's just unfortunate that it comes back in October after hiring, is done.
I understand that, and that's
You
the
have to have a
same,
plan for it, so I got it.
and that's the same position that all principals are in, which is
Absolutely,
why
absolutely.
different principals have addressed it differently, either in terms of supplies or learning platforms or field trip funds or
Essentially what it would be, for us, it would be,
parapros or,
it would
but-
be time for us to use, and I'll put it in writing, but I can let the team know that it would be used to pay our staff primarily additional time to do tutoring after school and doing.
but you see, that's just it. This is what your team needs to know, is how you are spending these funds to address those priorities. So I sent you an email. You should hopefully see it.
Okay,
And while you'll have to fill out the slides, because this is what we need uploaded after your budget is finally approved, you can at least walk your team through like some of the questions and some of the other things on these slides, please.
okay.
So I guess maybe for next meeting, we can review those additional, because seems we'll have to review a second plan or a contingency plan to hopefully getting those dollars back. And so if Ms. Miller, can we put that as an action item for our next meeting to go over those additional budget slides?
Yes,
So here's the thing you have to understand about this process, right?
Mhm.
Is that this draft budget that Mr. Garner is proposing today is where you guys talk about what these trade-offs and choices are. So he's talked a lot about what he's recommending as trade-off as choices, right? Because he's lost funds, and that's going to result in abolishments of positions. And when you guys get to the end of today, there should be kind of a consensus among your team that you feel that the principal has addressed your strategic plan to the best of his ability with the funds that you have, and that you want him to go to staffing conference and advocate for this budget. So you don't want him having to come back and talk to you, and then you all saying, well, we don't think that that's a good idea of how to spend that, because you don't have the time in the whole budget and staffing process in order to do that. So that's why we have the presentation where Principal Garner, if you could go up a slide or two.
Okay.
Where we ask the principals to talk about how their spending aligns to priorities, the APS 5 strategies, and what the amount is. Because after the principal goes to the staffing conference, we know that the budget, we call it budget season, and it's not just budget season for our schools, it's budget season for the district, for the legislature, for the counties. So things are moving. And in fact, I think last week, all the principals got an update to what their allocations were based on their signature programs. Am I correct? Was it last week? So this is a moving target, but we need to try our best to say this is what we want, and hopefully nothing changes at staffing conference, right? So that when they come back for the final budget approval after staffing conference, you can hopefully come back and say, this is what we're doing. And everybody can say, yes, we agree with how you want to spend the family engagement and Title I holdback funds. We agree with how you want to spend the leveling if you get it. And we agree with how you're spending the CARES funding and the general SSF budget.
So if I could dive in just a quick second, and I'll have to go in and fill in these slides, but I'm ready to discuss all of those things. I think we had an additional $79,000 that was added to our budget. So in that $10,400,000, that money is added into it. That's the newest updated version of it for our signature programming, which again allowed us to be able to add the new engagement specialist position, because prior to that, we would have only had a small amount of money left to run the entire school year, but the priority was trying to keep our individuals in place. For the holdback funds, a lot of the things that we've been able to do this year, we won't be able to do next year. Case in point, we were approved by the district to pay an attendance stipend to all of our staff members, an additional $2,000 for 5 days or less missed throughout the entire school year. And the data on that looks amazing. We have 101 staff members here total in the school right now, and I believe 83 of them are still in the runnings to get to receive those funds. Now, what does that mean? That means that our teachers are coming to work every day. And if our teachers are coming to work, then we have the ability to better teach our students with quality teachers in front of them every day. It's also saving money in substitutes. So those are some of the things, but that's very expensive, right? And we were able to do that this year. So some of those things I would like to see us bring back if our enrollment actually ends up being higher than what it is projected, and we were to receive some of those Title I funds. The key level for me is to make sure that our students are receiving the time that they need with quality teachers. So for us, we don't need new computers.
Good evening, John Lewis and Victus Academy. At this time, we need all scholars to please report to
And that's a perfect segue. It's 5:55 on a Tuesday. Our teachers are tutoring students. They are required to stay 1 day a week, which for us is Wednesdays. But because we've had the additional funds, we've been able to open up tutorial sessions on Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays as well. But you have to compensate individuals for their time. This Saturday, we will begin our next Saturday school, which again requires funds to be able to pay teachers, staff members to come in and do the additional work. So if those funds were to be reallocated to our budget, we would spend them in those 3 ways. One, additional time through after school and Saturday school, which would take up, a large sum of that money. And 2, we would like to do another attendance incentive for our staff members to keep them motivated to come into school. So those would be 2 big ticket items that we would use. Another way that we would potentially use those funds, if we could, would be this whole transformation of 21st century classrooms. Right now, we're looking at models of what, additional collaborative spaces can look like, but of course we don't have the funds. So right now it's just kind of a look, but if those funds were reallocated, then we would look at transforming our spaces slowly to create more collaborative classroom spaces for students. And again, I'll go in and fill these slides out so that everything will be in line with what we're doing. As far as the CARES Act funding, again, for us, CARES Act, and I can pull that budget up and show you.
Ms. Jacoby, while we're waiting, so the recommendation is that we wait to see the final slide or that we can go through it now?
I think you can go through it now if Principal Gardner can detail out what's in that PowerPoint, and then he can fill it out to make sure that you guys see it in writing. But I want to make sure that you are aware of how all of this is going to be spent, and that when you do get to that final budget approval meeting after his staffing conference, that you can see all of this. And the other thing that I really need y'all to do today is that there's a slide with important questions where you talk about if you really understand what the trade-offs are, right? So we're keeping or adding this position instead of having this position, or if that helps.
Hold on 1 second, guys. There it is, CARES. All right. All right. Back here. Share. Can you guys see my screen? Oh, sorry. All right. So again, this is the CARES Act funding. So you see we had a total of $364,980. That template didn't work there, but here's a breakdown of how these funds will be allocated. So again, those 3 non-instructional aid positions will be funded here, and this will be the total cost. We would use these $70,000 for contract services like CT3, program that we use for curriculum and instruction. And then this will be $112,000 for contracted services for professional development, and then another $20,000 for teacher and student incentives. Any questions about this? And then I'll go back to the PowerPoint that Ms. Jacoby referenced and then answer any questions there, or we can go through the questions that's in that presentation.
No question.
Okay. All right. Let me stop sharing there. Go back to, I think this is it. Okay. Let's see. Looks like hard to do. All right, questions for the GO team to consider. Are school priorities from your strategic plan reflected in this budget?
Mr. Garner, we can't see your screen yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Will you do a new share for us, please?
All right. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So are our priorities reflected in the budget? Are new positions and our resources included in the budget to address our major priorities? So I spoke about the abolishments in addition to the humanities course that we want to add, which aligns to our first priority, which is, essentially the quality of instruction. And I feel like we should have the strategic plan in front of us, but only have one screen, but everybody has access to the plan because it's on the website. Do we know as a team the plan to support the implementation of these priorities beyond the budget? What strategies will be implemented? And so a portion of the funds that we just saw through CARES Act last year and we'll do it again this year, is bring our teachers back a week early. We'll offer that to every teacher. So part of that $112,000 will be allocated for professional development with our teachers a week early during the summer, so that we can do a lot of professional development around project-based learning and STEAM. We started doing a lot of that work this year, but we couldn't keep it going because we want to focus on the Georgia milestones and making sure that we don't end up on the state list. So, so that's one strategy that we will use. Again, we partner with CT3, which is the company that we've been doing training on this year around do nows and exit tickets, but precise direction and positive narration, which are classroom management strategies. And right now we're focused using them with targeted instruction. So looking at assessments, knowing what students are and targeting our instruction towards that. So we'll use that company next year. What trade-offs are being made in order to support these priorities? So one of the trade-offs will be, the abolishment of the positions that I stated, the 6th and 7th grade social studies positions, which will free us up to add more math, science, ELA teachers, smaller to make the classroom sizes smaller, and also allow us to have more time. Any questions about number 1, A, B, or C?
Yeah, I think what you're doing to supplement what the budget may or may not be is great. My only question would be just a more clear understanding of how we're measuring if this new way works. So I know you mentioned the plan from Gwinnett, and Gwinnett is a great school system, and they have a lot of best practices. So how do we measure the success of extended classroom, the success of experiential learning in comparison to having a teacher or another teacher not taking away the budget or abolishments?
Yeah, great question, Ms. Jones. I think the proof will be in our common, formative, and summative assessments. So we constantly assess throughout. The district gives benchmarks. We'll still be, from my understanding, doing the MAP assessments and the HMH. So the proof will be how our kids perform, throughout on these assessments. Are their Lexile scores improving? Are they becoming, stronger with their basic math skills? So all of the data that we collect throughout the year will be how we monitor that. The other way is, we'll monitor with our instructional coaches and the walkthroughs that we do as an admin team to be able to go in and keep that constant, level of watching, professionally developing, and then going and monitoring and giving feedback, right? So those coaching cycles and that continuous improvement model. Those will be the ways that we measure this. So we'll come back to this table and say, these are the results. And I'll keep you informed throughout the year. We give the MAP assessment 3 times a year. So I'll keep you abreast of where we are and how our kids are performing as we go.
The last thing, and sorry if anyone wants to jump in there, I strongly believe in the experiential learning. I also think that it should be coupled with actual outside experiential learning. So I know that the budget for field trips were a little low, and I want to suggest that if the students in class are learning more STEM-oriented curriculum, what would it look like to take a trip to Microsoft? What would it look like because they're asking, these big corporations want to strengthen the career pipeline between schools and their partnership. And what does it look like when you learn this in class and then be able to go to work? So my only suggestion is that if there could be, and I know with COVID it's difficult, but if we're forward thinking and we're thinking, okay, what would be the end result of this doing really well? could there be some type of additional funding for field trips to some of these places that we want our students to be great candidates for?
I definitely agree with that. I think that's a good recommendation.
So that's my recommendation. Does anyone else have any, trade-offs or suggestions that we can bring to the table to?
So we might not be able to afford to go out in the community, but we might be able to get community partners to come into the schools. And so if you now that we're talking about this, I'll start looking into different programs that we can possibly do after school. So you might be able to supplement having groups come in once a month, once every couple weeks. That way the teachers aren't the only ones expected to be there after school.
And Roy, the only thing I'll say to that is it does matter when they can get outside of their community and see it, to be able to picture themselves there and add to. So that's the only thing I think is great to bring them in if the budget, but if we can just add one more field trip down the street and get,
Right. And Rejoice, that could be one of the trade-offs, right? So
Yeah.
when I'm doing this, that could be a trade-off, because essentially if every student is 4,000, I forget exactly how much it is. So if we get 800 kids or 810
Mhm.
students, then we would get the additional funding for that, which would open us up to
Yeah.
be able to very easily take more outside trips if everything is
Right.
opened up. So that won't be a problem if, it's kind of if then.
right, yeah.
If that works that way, yeah, that's a great trade-off. That's something that we can do, definitely. I'll document that when I'm going through the slides. Any other questions in number 1 before we go to number 2? Okay. All right. So number 2 says, how are district and cluster priorities reflected? So in our cluster, I could tell you that all of the principals in the Douglas cluster are now collaborating very heavily to have the same cluster priorities, which will essentially focus around teacher development or quality of instruction, which is what our number 1 priority is. In addition to that, we are STEAM cluster. So all of the 5 schools in this cluster have a STEM or STEAM signature program. And you can hear in our plan that everything that we're doing is centered around STEAM, lengthening the class sizes, project-based learning, is where we're going, is how we want to teach. And that's all about our signature program. And then it says what staff materials are dedicated to supporting our signature program, where we have a STEAM coordinator, Ms. Latoya Morgan, who's in our school, doing some great work for us and is taking the lead on writing curriculum for our humanities program, humanities course. Additionally, designing and creating our STEAM showcases, and is leading our personalized learning initiatives as well. And then, are there positions our school would share with another school? No, we don't share any positions with any other school. No nurse, counselor, social worker. This year, we share a psychologist. We have a psychologist 0.75 of the time, and they spend 0.25 of the time at another school. But from my understanding, next year we have 1 full allocation for a school psychologist. Let me see, is that? Okay. Who knows? All of the questions. So I do need to go in and complete the slides here. Ms. Jacoby, another question for you. What are our next steps? Or do we vote, or do we, what do we do from here?
So today there's no vote, but for the team, with everything that Principal Gardner has told you, do you have any additional questions, any additional concerns? Do you feel comfortable with him taking these recommendations for the changes in staffing and programming to his staffing conference and having HR and finance give it their seal of approval so that when it comes back to you all, you feel comfortable voting and saying, yes, we approve this budget? That is the biggest question in front of the GO team today. So, if you have any questions about how he's going to be spending his reserves or any money holdback, I urge you to pause for a minute and think if you have any other questions before he goes off. Because, timelines make, after he comes back for that budget approval meeting, changes become more difficult. They're not impossible, but it does become more difficult. So please try to make sure that you discuss all your questions today.
Now, I just want to pause and if there are any questions, I'm going to pause and give everybody an opportunity to think about anything that you have questions about or anything that you want to know more about.
For me, I think I've, voiced just like data driven, and I think we're all here data driven people. So just like trying and just being able to show like the data. So I think the direction we're going in is great, and just being, hell-bound on the data to see if like, okay, what's that the way to go? But I have no questions. I would like to put that tidbit of just like if there could be more robust experiential learning, if we do get that budget, for that to be like an asterisk there of just possibly expanding that as an addition or complement to what you're already doing with the experiential learning, which I think will be great in the classroom. But for me, I have no other questions. I think the priorities are sort of dead on with not only what Booker T is trying to do and sort of the close communication that you guys are having with the principal there, with creating these other little pockets of excuse me if I forget the name of the center that we just cut the ribbon for today, and how that is also. No, I was just saying how that is also, I feel, a place that the cluster is trying to go prioritize, like where are the gaps, and can we actually put a stake in the gaps and offer solutions for what we see as like a clear solutions that we need to solve outside of what we're doing for the school-wide initiative. So yep, I'm fine with that, with my suggestions like out there. So anyone else? I think, as Ms. Jacoby said, this is like the time to
No, I don't have any concerns. I just want to but just echo what Roy said, in that as we begin to grow more in the area of partnerships, and as you said, have those enriching experiences in and the classroom.
So one thing I would encourage the team to do once you get through the budget is to remember our strategic plans are living documents, right? That we're constantly looking at them. And to Ms. Jones's point about really wanting to see specific data, to go back and look at those strategies that you're using in your strategic plan to address that priority, and make sure that the SMART goals and the data align in the way that you feel would report out what you're looking for in terms of the success of any changes, right? And that's not today's job. That's not even necessarily next meeting's job, but that is something for your team to kind of keep on the table, to make sure that your strategic plan is, one, reflecting the work that's being done, and two, is adequately reflecting the goals and measurements that you want to see.
Absolutely. When you say the specific data, so we've had, I just want to be clear and make sure I'm bringing all of the data that I need to bring. I brought all of the MAP data, all of the HMH data to this team. We take MAP again in a couple of weeks, so we'll bring that back again too. Is there any other data that we should be reporting as it relates to maybe like the common summative, formative assessment data? What other data points?
I mean,
should I be bringing?
part of that would depend upon like how these, that's something for like you and your leadership team maybe, and the Go team to talk about as you've suggested these changes. Is it just MAP data that we want to see these things? Is there a student engagement or attendance that might help measure if students are engaged and showing up? You know, that again, that's a discussion between both your leadership team and your staff, and also the Go team as to how are we measuring success, or right? Like what's the goal? So you have proposed a number of changes, which is great and it's fine, but make sure that the accountability part in your strategic plan can show how those changes are happening, because you don't want those changes to happen way over outside of your plan, right? Because the other thing is if you're seeing that, and I know that this won't hopefully happen, but let's say that one of the things that we're hoping by these changes is that we'll see better attendance, and then all of a sudden your attendance takes a nosedive, right? Then you might have to adjust what you're doing. Where if you weren't measuring and watching attendance, then you wouldn't know that. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Yep, makes sense to me. Okay. All right, so I guess my question is, before we end, is everyone okay with me taking this to my staffing conference to ask for approval by the district? That's all. Rejoice, give a thumbs up. Okay. Ms. Miller. Okay.
Yeah, a motion to take it to the staffing conference. Can someone have a motion of approval?
Motion.
Okay, can I have a second, please? Just one more person, a second.
Ms.
Somebody
Laster
raised
just,
their hand.
Ms.
Yeah.
Laster just raised her hand.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't see. Thank you, Ms. Laster. Seems like everyone is great. I think that, yeah, this will be. Well, we're okay to move to the information items, and we have the principal's report. Take it away, Mr. Garner, if we have some things to report on.
No, I just want to report on today. Today was an amazing day for our school. A lot of people on this call were here today, so I don't have to really go through it. But I just want to say thank you again to everyone who was here for the launching of the John Robert Lewis Service Center. We really, really, believe in this work. Of course, our students come to us with a lot of gaps and a lot of deficits that maybe some other schools don't experience as it relates to trauma, as it relates to home life. And so a lot of our kids need additional go-to people within the school, which causes us to need more staff, because I can't rely on my teachers to be mother, father, counselor, and a lot of the different roles that our students need and require. So it's important to have the counselors. It's important to have companies like Communities in Schools, and all those things we have to pay for. It's not free. So to have those additional individuals in the school who can carry caseloads to ensure that our students don't have barriers, right? That they don't have to come to school and think about things that's out of their control, but they can come to a school in a safe and orderly environment, and they can be taught how to do a mediation. They can be taught how to resolve conflict without, going to fisticuffs. And so we launched that center today. It was a great event, and the work must continue. I don't have the data points right in front of me, but if you were there, you saw how many mediations we've done. You see the decrease in our out-of-school suspensions. You see that we landed in the top 10 in growth in our district on the MAP assessment, which doesn't equate to students being proficient and distinguished, but it sure does say that we are moving in the right direction. We landed in the top 3 in middle schools in math growth on the MAP assessment. So, we're nowhere near where we want to be. We still have over 50% of our students at a beginning level, but again, we are growing, and that, according to the data, and that is what we want to do. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for your support. Again, it was a great event, and I appreciate each of you.
Y'all
All right.
probably tired of me talking, but I'll just say this. Today was just so inspirational. I feel it's probably people have been teaching on this call. Ms. Miller, we learned she was the guru in writing. We just learned so many things about the staff and the team that you have supporting. But for me, what I took away and was inspired by is, like, for so long, districts would just have these monolithic solutions for our communities without taking into account the real realities of the students. And you guys put feet to this problem. You didn't just say, well, we'll just counsel it out. We was like, no, we'll create a center where each time we need a more fostering environment or more aggressive approach to the emotional traumas that we have. Because, like I think Ms. Miller said, or one of your staff members said, like, we can't really expect full engaged learning when that's just how the human brain works. It has to have a place of safety and optimal learning. And I'm just so proud to be a part of this team and just watch how you guys are putting feet and legs to handling some of the biggest, I would say, gaps in our community and creating a more fostering environment. Having the way it even looks, like it just feels proud. So kudos to you guys and Ms. Miller for just, like, slaying today and just putting some hope back into the community for sure.
Yep. Thank you for that. We are not a perfect school, got a long way to go, but I do think we're moving. I think we're moving in the right direction. So that's it. That's all I have for a principal's report today.
Are there any announcements that we need to cover? No, it's well past our time. Well, if there aren't any other.
I have two, I'm sorry. I have 2 quick announcements from the Go Team office. 3 quick announcements. 1, please make sure to complete your Go Team trainings, especially that budget training. Those can be found on the Ellis learning platform. If you are an APS employee, you click the yellow rectangle and sign in with your APS credentials. If you are outside of APS, we have created an account for you. Mr. Cogdell, I will be creating your account by the end of the week on that platform, and you'll get notifications about it. Secondly, we are still accepting declarations for Go Team elections. Every school in the district has 2 parent and 2 non-supervisory instructional staff positions open this year for election. And this happens at middle school a lot, especially on the parents, in that parents' students age out of the school a lot faster. And so you might no longer be eligible to run again at John Lewis. But we ask everybody to try to help Principal Garner identify quality candidates to run for those positions. So if for any reason that you are not coming back onto the team, please try to help Principal Garner identify the replacement for your seat and ask them to declare. I cannot stress enough how far a personal ask goes. Just sending somebody the link and saying, I think you'd be great at this is not enough, but to actually talk to somebody and say, hey, I noticed that you don't say a lot when you come to meetings, but you always have that comment or question that lifts the conversation, that encompasses all of the kids. That's really important. So if you could please if you could please declare your intention to run for the Go Team seat, you're really going to help our kids. It goes a really long way to ask people to declare. Declarations close next Monday on the 28th. So please try to help find people to declare. I think we only have one school in the entire district who has all of their candidates at this time. And I know it's not John Lewis because it just happened today and it was a high school. So thank you, Ms. Jones, for putting that link in. However, to access that, people still have to log into the system. So just to let you all know. And then
all of our members, you mean declarations for next time or members currently?
declarations for the 22 to 24 term.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, the trainings for this year, the declarations are for next year. So you need 2 parents and 2 staff members to declare their candidacy to run. And then the third announcement is for our Go Team members. Erica Long, our governance director for governmental affairs director for APS, is going to be doing a legislative update for our Go Team members on Monday, the 28th at 6:30. So if you want to hear about the legislation and what's been happening at the Georgia Capitol, please join us. Again, that will be accessed through the Ellis platform. And that's all I've got. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Jacoby. Are there any more announcements? And thanks so much for everyone helping us get through the budget. And I think it's deep work that we're gonna benefit from. Any other announcements?
Just want to give a big shout out to Ms. Miller for everything that she does for our school. Everything she does and everything today, she really led all of that. So thank you, Ms. Miller. Just want to say that.
Okay.
Thank you. And Ms. Laster.
And Ms.
And
Black.
Ms. Laster, I think she should change her name to Clutch. But seriously, thank you. It was just a beautiful event. And
Laster does a lot for us too. Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Laster.
Thank you, Ms.
Oh,
Laster.
thank you. It really was great.
All right. Okay.
Well, I'll adjourn the meeting if I can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
So have a second.
Second.
Awesome. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, well, thank you guys so much. And we'll look forward to the next meeting.
Thank you, everybody. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.